we begin our report with Donald Trump's defense attorneys resting their case in the former president's New York criminal trial. Since the trial started on April 15th, the prosecution called 22 witnesses, totaling over 50 hours of testimony. The defense, meanwhile, called 2 witnesses with about 2 hours of testimony. Among those who took the stand were David Pecker, former publisher of the National Enquirer; Hope Hicks, Trump's longtime former White House aide; Stormy Daniels, the adult film actress who allegedly had a sexual encounter with Trump in 2006; and Michael Cohen, Trump's former lawyer, fixer, and ally. These witnesses were able to provide insight into what prosecutors call a criminal scheme to pay Stormy Daniels $130,000 in exchange for her silence about that alleged encounter. The former president has pleaded not guilty to 34 charges of falsifying business records in connection to that payment. For more, let's bring in, as we always do, CBS News campaign reporter and attorney Katrina Kaufman, who has been in the courtroom. Katrina, you've been there for, I guess, all of it. Now that
20 days now.
Yes. Now that they've rested, what do you make of the 2 arguments as they've played out?
I think the prosecution put on a very compelling case, and they put it on in a smart way, too. They started with the big picture you were talking about of the alleged catch-and-kill scheme with Michael Cohen, Donald Trump, and David Pecker from the National Enquirer, and then really took us through the progression of events that led to the payoff of Stormy Daniels and the ultimate cover-up of that payment, corroborating evidence along the way with lots of documents, text messages, emails, audio recordings, call logs, and all of this really progressed up to Michael Cohen. And it also felt important that many of the witnesses they brought on were actually Trump loyalists, establishing this case and giving quite damaging evidence against him. But where the defense really shone was in their cross-examination of Michael Cohen. They showed a lot of inconsistencies in his testimony on the stand and, of course, his history of lying under oath. They even tried to establish that he may have lied on the stand in this case, although the prosecution sort of came back from that in the end. So I think when it comes down to it, a lot of it will depend on whether these 12 jurors believe any of what Michael Cohen said. They don't have to believe all of it, but they do have to believe some of it, and then also how both sides weave all of this together in closing arguments.
Tell me about Bob Costello. What role? Because there was a lot of drama. Help people understand what the drama was about.
So Bob Costello was a legal advisor who was linked to Rudy Giuliani, and Cohen had testified that he tried to become Cohen's lawyer, but Cohen really saw him as a back channel to Donald Trump and felt like anything he told him would end up going to the president, so he wasn't comfortable having him as representation. And when Costello took the stand, he was a really contentious witness. Very early on in his testimony, he was sort of saying geez and sighing because there were all these objections that the judge was sustaining, and the judge first let the jury out of the room.
He's a defense witness.
He's a
Costello.
defense witness, okay. Yes, he's a defense witness. And just for context, Judge Merchan is always so composed, so calm. He always keeps order in his courtroom. So when he chastised this witness on the stand for his decorum, it was really striking. And then apparently Costello gave him a glare in response, at which point he just sort of, the judge yelled and just cleared the entire room. It was basically chaos as the guards were ushering all of the press out of the room, and he gave him a private talking to. But this is very rare. This does not happen in court a lot for a judge to do this.
Wow. Okay. So as a final question, Donald Trump didn't take the stand.
Yes.
One is not compelled to testify in one's own case. But explain what that may or may not mean, and then also help me understand why the defense would only call 2 witnesses. Might that mean they think, you know what, we took care of it on cross. We've raised the doubt we need to raise. We don't need to bring in a whole bunch of people.
I mean, the truth is the burden of proof is on the prosecution. In this case, the defense almost didn't put on any case. And as you said, they're not, like, a defendant is not required to take the stand in their own case. And having been in 2 other courtrooms where Donald Trump took the stand, I have to say he probably was advised well not to do so. In this case, he is not one to stay under control while testifying. And of course, the jury can't hold this against him either.